Hello, everyone. Can I check that you can hear me clearly? Someone say hi, if you can hear me. Okay, great. Thank you, Mike. Okay, great. Thank you very much. We will be starting shortly. Thank you for making time to join. So we'll give a few other people to join, just a few more minutes, and then we'll start at exactly 5 minutes past the hour. Looking at my clock, it is 2 minutes past the hour, so give ourselves 3 minutes. Okay, great. I see we are getting through. Let's give ourselves 2 minutes and then we start. So please settle in, make sure you can hear me well. We will be starting shortly in the next 2 minutes. Also, you can confirm if you can see the screen, just to make sure because we are sharing screen. So just confirm on your device that you can see the screen as we prepare to start in 1 minute. Thanks, Ahmed. Body, good to have you. Great. Even before we start, you can just check on the screen. We are sharing two screens, one in English and another one in Spanish. So if you're able to hover or move your cursor on top, you will be able to select one of the screens. But then we will start now, and I would like to welcome all of you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're joining up from. Welcome to the Youth Empowerment Fund session on how to ace your application. This is basically a session that will talk about how you can prepare a strong and high quality application for the Youth Empowerment Fund. My name is Diogratius Magero. You can call me Dio, and I'll be the moderator for this session. I'm the Youth Networks and Accompaniment Coordinator and part of the project coordination team at the Global Youth Mobilization. So before we start, today we also have a few members of the project coordinating team joining us, and you can see them because they are all starting their names with GYM at the beginning. And so I would like to just recognize them, starting with Yang. So Yang, if you can just say hi to confirm that you're
Hello. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Dio.
great. Thank you. And Lauren checking as well.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you.
Great, thank you. And in addition to that, we also have a member of our youth panel, Faith. You want to say hi? You'll be talking to us at a later stage as well.
Hi everyone, welcome to Youth Empowerment Fund.
Thank you, Faith. And in addition to that, we also have an additional team from WAGS that is supporting us with both tech and interpretation. So May, you want to say hi, your support on tech?
Oh, hello. Hi, I'm May.
Thank you, May. We also have Laura and Helen who are supporting with interpretation of English to Spanish. You can say hi, both of you.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you. Well, great. And right now we have a total of about 46. I think we soon be getting to 50 people joining. So just before we deep dive into further details, we want to share logistics that will help you participate and be well engaged in this session. So first and foremost, this session is being offered in English and interpreted in Spanish. So you have the choice and the ability to choose your preferred language for interpretation. To choose your preferred language, either English or Spanish, please click on the interpretation in the meeting controls. If you look on your screen, it is showed encircled. When you click on that, select the language you want to hear. It's either English or Spanish. And if you want to hear only the interpreted language, you can click mute original audio. We also would like to encourage you to turn on closed captions for the session by clicking the CC button as shown here on your right side of the slides on the screen. And feel free to select your preferred language so that you are well engaged. Secondly, as part of the logistics to enable you even be better engaged, we are sharing two screens, two slides, so two screen slides. One is in English and the other one is in Spanish. So if you are on your computer, please move around or hover around your cursor to the top and you will see the English written EN is being shared by May and the Spanish written ESP is being shared by Lauren. Please click on the screen that brings the slides of your preferred language. And if you found your preferred language, you can always give me a thumbs up. Just give me a thumbs up after to confirm that you clicked your preferred language. Thank you. I can see Raul, I can see Sodiq. Well, great, thank you. All right. So let's move in to the next section. So before we go into the details again, I would like to give us some guidelines and important messages that will make this session a success. I will start by saying, please make sure that you are always on mute unless you are requested to speak. Secondly, we are recording this session and we will share it on our social media channels afterwards. So if for any reason you do not wish to have your image recorded, please turn off your video. And thirdly, as I said, this session is in English and Spanish. Please select the language that best fits you and the interpretation as well. When you're using the chat section, please avoid sharing personal details and personal information because all of us here could be strangers and it's good that we can protect ourselves and keep safe our data. If you have any questions as we start this session, please post them in the Q&A section of the meeting. We encourage you to use the Q&A section for the questions you would have and not the chats because so many chats come through and we might miss out on your question. In addition, you may have noticed that AI note takers are being declined because we want to have an engaging session where all of us are focused on listening and participating and contributing. We also discourage you from sending private messages to each other, and you would notice that that has been switched off. But if it hasn't on your end, please avoid. And lastly, if you have any safeguarding issues or concerns or private messaging that is of your concern, please send a direct message to our colleague Laureen. You will see that her name starts with GYM ESP. Laureen, please send a private message only if you have an issue that is one of a safeguarding concern. Great. And so now that we have understood a bit of the guidelines and logistics, as we wait for more other people to join, it would be great for us to know you a little bit better. So please open the chat section and let us know what region are you joining us from. Just click in the chat section and tell us, are you joining us from Africa, Asia, Pacific, Europe, Middle East, North America, North Africa, North America, South America? Okay, great. I see them coming. I see Africa. I see Inter-America, Colombia. Great. Hello from Asia, West Africa precisely. Keep them coming. Let us know where you're joining us from. Asia Pacific, Mauritius, DRC Congo, East Africa. Okay, it's great. Keep them coming. Help us to know which region you're joining us from. East Africa, Asia Pacific. Keep them coming. Okay, I see countries names now coming out. Southern Africa. Well, we are over 40 people here, so great let's get to see at least also responses. Okay, I see Uganda in Africa coming through, Kenya. Please type, great to have someone from Bangladesh as well. I know we love our countries and it's great to also mention them. Cote d'Ivoire, Cameroon, it's good. Lebanon. This is very exciting. Please make sure if you haven't mentioned your country or your region that you can post and let us know where you're joining us from. What is exciting is to just know, that we are all represented here from across the different corners of the globe, and that is exactly what the Youth Empowerment Fund is seeking to support young people across the board. Well, we'll move on to our next question. And this is about why you are joining us here for this information session. Next question. So please take a moment and think about why you are in this session. Excuse me. Are you in this session because one, you plan to apply yourself? Let us know. Or two, maybe you're not sure yet, but you'd like to learn more about the Youth Empowerment Fund. Or you are supporting young people in your network to apply, and therefore you need this information. Or maybe you are here for any other reason. Please open the chat box, and text. Let us know why you are here today. Okay, Diver, great. You say you plan to apply yourself and you're interested to learn more. Let's hear everyone's reason why you're here. Need more details? Great. Keep them coming. Oh, we have a past awardee as well who didn't ace through with the first application. Great. Thank you for coming back. This is the right session. You plan to apply as well as support others. Great. Here to learn better. Okay, this is great. Support other young people. Apply for a local organization. Enrich your ideas. Learn much more. Please keep them coming. Let's see why you're here today. Okay, this is great. So basically we have representation across the board. We have people that are here because they want to apply. We have those that are here because they want to support other groups and other young people to apply. And what is also great is the fact that we also have previous applicants that maybe did not get it. And this is a great opportunity for you to learn how to even make a better application. So you are actually in the right place. And because of that, we would move on to the very last section of your engagement. And in this last section, please take a moment and think about how you are feeling joining this webinar. And just use one word to describe how you feel joining this webinar today. What word would describe how you're feeling as you join this webinar today? Grateful, elated. I see people are seeking to learn, want to apply. So how are you feeling? One word that describes how you feel as you join. Excited, great. Expectant, optimistic. People are feeling happy and excited. Just one word that describes how you are feeling today as you join this webinar. Optimistic. Curious, that's very good, yeah. Inspired, keep them coming. Expectant. Keep them what's coming. Hopeful. Okay, great. This is good. We are very excited to, marvelous, that's wonderful. We're just really excited to see the increasing number of you who are interested to apply and support other young people to apply, or organizations. And basically we see many of you feeling happy, excited, curious, expectant, hopeful, and even inspired. And that is very good. So I would like to appreciate you for taking a moment to also just complete the sessions, the questions that we've asked, and helping us to know where you come from. So at this point, we'll go to introduction. Therefore, we are going to play a short video that will introduce to you the Youth Empowerment Fund. Please take a moment to listen in.
Every movement starts with a pulse. A spark within you. Our spark is the power of youth, igniting change around the world. Youth-led initiatives, supported by the Youth Empowerment Fund, tackle the world's biggest challenges at the local level. Powered by a partnership between the European Union and the Big Six youth organizations, delivered through the Global Youth Mobilization, a flagship of the EU Youth Action Plan, the Youth Empowerment Fund breaks down barriers to funding, develops skills and capacity in young leaders, providing networking opportunities and more. Cycle 1 of the Open Call received over 10,400 applications from 178 countries and across the Big Six networks. Youth-led solutions mobilizing thousands of young people are underway. Young people coming together to make their communities stronger, healthier, and more sustainable. The Global Youth Mobilization's youth-led model places young people at all levels of decision-making, from selecting grant recipients, consulting on boards, and leading projects on the ground, with the ideas submitted from around the globe being reviewed by our 168 youth panelists. The project applications received focus on the UN Sustainable Development Goals, including themes of education, peace and equity, climate change, improving health and well-being, tackling poverty, and building a sustainable economy. It puts ideas into action. It empowers underrepresented and marginalized communities, and it gives young people the power to lead and create local solutions. The pulse within you becomes the power of youth. Together, we're creating real impact. Building the future today. Whatever your passion, the Youth Empowerment Fund can help you become the change maker your community needs. This is your moment. This is your global youth movement. Let's create change together.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you very much for listening to that. And it's just reminding us that this is your moment, this is your time, and the Youth Empowerment Fund, through a global youth mobilization, is giving you a chance to create that change you want to see in your community. And at this point, we are now going to hear from Yen, who is my colleague at the Global Youth Mobilization Project Coordinating Team, as she takes us through the open call application walkthrough. Welcome, Jen.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dio. All right. Hi, everyone. Bonjour, hola, and salam. Welcome to the open call walkthrough. We'll talk through the process of applications and top tips for how you can ace your application. I'm Ying from the Global Youth Mobilization Team, as Dio mentioned, and I'll be your guide through the application process. Before I continue, I'd also like to wish everyone here a happy International Women's Day. All right, so for non-native English speakers, I'd like you to turn on your closed caption or select your interpretation channel if you have not already. And we will begin with a quick intro on the initiative. Then I'll show you a step-by-step on how to submit a high-quality application. Are you ready? Okay, if you're ready, drop a heart reaction, okay? If you're ready to go through the walkthrough with me, drop a heart reaction. I'm not seeing any heart reactions. Okay, it's coming in now. All right, awesome. Purple hearts for International Women's Day. I like that. Thank you very much. Okay, so first off, let's begin. So if you don't already know, you can now apply to the Youth Empowerment Fund. So what is the Youth Empowerment Fund? It is a joint initiative between the European Union and the Big Six youth organizations. The Youth Empowerment Fund is a flagship of the EU's Youth Action Plan and is delivered through the Global Youth Mobilization, or GYM, which is an initiative of the Big Six youth organizations. So the Youth Empowerment Fund is aimed at empowering young people like you between the ages of 14 to 30 years old to contribute to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals in our local communities. This is a low-barrier, youth-friendly initiative which provides young people with resources to support your innovative ideas. So our collective goals are simple but powerful. It is to foster youth-led solutions, build up your skills, and create lasting positive impact in your community. All right, next slide, please. In addition to funding, right, the GYM provides mentorship, workshop, and guidance to successful awardees. Sorry, could we get the next slide, please? Thank you very much. Maybe it's my internet that's a bit slow also. Okay, back to that. So in addition to funding, like I said, the GYM provides mentorship, workshops, and guidance to successful awardees. Project teams also stand a chance to join an accelerator program, which offers more intensive training, support from experts, and additional funding opportunities to help scale your projects further. And by the end of the walkthrough, you'll have all the information you need to put together a strong application and make your project shine. Are you ready? If you're ready, then let's go. Number 1, eligibility criteria to apply. Firstly, you will need to be between 14 and 30 years old. No younger, no older, 14 and 30 years old. Next, and this is important, your project must be implemented in an eligible country. And you can see our eligible country list on our website, but also in the meeting chat now, right? So we'll be sharing the eligible country list right now in the chat. Next, whether you're applying as an individual, an informal group, or a registered youth-led organization, you're eligible. It is important to note that when you're applying, you should make sure that your application uses the same name stated in your official ID documentation, right? So if you're an individual or an informal group, the project leader or the project applicant needs to apply with the same name as stated in your official ID documentation. And if you're registering as a youth-led organization, your organization name needs to be the same as what is registered. Okay? Now, let's make sure we cover all the bases before diving into the application details. All right, so you may be thinking, what kind of projects are we looking to fund? So first up is your project should align with one or more of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs. While we fund projects that address any of the SDGs, we also have a special focus on projects that support individuals or communities who are underrepresented and projects that address climate change. Underrepresented communities. You may be asking, what does that mean? Well, underrepresented communities would mean groups that often don't have a voice in mainstream discussions. So, for example, disempowered women, people with disabilities, those from low-income backgrounds, LGBTQ+ individuals, or communities living in rural areas. So, projects that improve access to education or provide essential services like clean water are some great ways to support these communities. And for climate change, we are looking for projects such as those that promote environmental sustainability. For example, projects that reduce carbon emissions, promote renewable energy, encourage sustainability practices, or enhance overall biodiversity. We're very interested to hear your ideas about what tackling climate change looks like to you and your community. But it's also important to know what we don't fund. We don't fund projects that are primarily profit-oriented or projects that do not have a clear and direct community benefit. Specifically, we do not fund for-profit businesses without clear social impact, investments in technology, property, or office space not serving a direct community purpose. And we also do not fund projects focused mainly on purchasing materials or livestock without significant social goals. We focus on supporting projects with clear social impact, where any surplus is reinvested back into the community or project itself. So, keeping this in mind will help you tailor your application to meet our criteria. Next, let's talk about the different funding levels available. So, we have 4 levels of fixed amount
Next.
funding.
Tenemos
Level 1 of funding is 500 euros. And this level is open to all team types, That means individuals, informal groups, and registered youth-led organizations. So level 1 funding is ideal for smaller projects or testing new ideas. And level 2 funding is funding of 1,500 euros. And as well, this is for all team types. This level funding is ideal for projects with a broader reach. Now, for level 3 and level 4 funding, this is only for registered youth-led organizations. For level 3 funding, it is 3,000 euros in funding. And level 3 funding is ideal for small-scale projects with measurable community impact. And level 4 funding, all right, is funding of 5,000 euros. And once again, this is only for registered youth-led organizations. And level 4 funding is ideal for medium-scale projects with measurable community impact. So what does this mean? This means choose the level that fits your entity type and the project scopes and needs. Your project should be designed to fully utilize the awarded funds according to the funding level that you apply for. Remember, we want to see you effectively manage and utilize the funds that you're requesting. Okay, so let's go on to a quick overview of the application process. All right, so what's the first thing? First is head over to our website and read the frequently asked questions and application sample answers. All right, you can find them all on our open call page, or one of my colleagues will share the link to the frequently asked questions in the chat. All right, so go there and read all the frequently asked questions. And it's also useful to read the sample answers so you know what a good answer looks like. Next, step 2, which is craft and submit your application. And once we have received your application, our youth panel will review and score them. Now, this panel consists of over 170 young people from all over the world, aged 14 to 30 years old, representing a wide range of backgrounds and perspectives. So your applications are in good hands. This diverse group will carefully evaluate each application and provide recommendations on which projects should be awarded. Okay, so step 3 is once our youth panel review process is completed, you'll be notified and asked to sign a grant agreement and submit your banking information. Then, step 4, we'll release the funds to you either in 1 or 2 parts, depending on the level of grant funding you receive. You're then ready to implement your project. Don't worry though, because we will provide you guidance, support, and access to capacity building and training throughout your journey. Finally, you will need to submit a progress report to us. This includes sharing the status of your project, photos of videos, and stories of the impact you've made in your community. Okay, so let's go to the next slide, which is our key questions in the application form. Okay, so if you have not seen our application form yet, these are the few things that you will need to provide. First, a short and catchy project title. Then select up to 5 sustainable development goals. All right, the relevant sustainable goals that your project addresses, including one main SDG that best represents your project. Okay. Now, you'll also have to answer why your project is needed. Okay. And before I continue, the questions for your project will be slightly different based on which level of funding you're applying for, if you are an individual or group of young people or a youth-led organization, right? So the questions in the form or the word length may vary depending on those factors. Right. So you're also going to have to answer and explain why your project is needed in the community you wish to support, and what are the positive changes that your project will bring to the community or the people that you are supporting. Next, you're also going to have to explain what are the main activities you will be carrying out to achieve your project goals, and an estimate of how many people will directly benefit from your project. Last but not least, we will also like to see a budget breakdown of how you plan to use your funds if you are awarded. Remember, most of these questions have character limits, so ensure that you communicate your main points as succinctly as possible. Keep it short, simple, and sweet. So, if you are a registered youth-led organization, like I mentioned, you will also need to elaborate more on your project. By the way, you can also share additional supporting information, like a video or files that tell us more about your project. This is great to do, but don't worry, this is completely optional and won't affect the reviewing process, right? So all you will need to do is provide a link to all your files in the application form. You can use Google Drive, Dropbox, and so on. Just ensure that we are able to access them. Now, are you ready for some tips? If you're ready for some tips, I'd like you to react with a thumbs up or type in the chat, I'm ready for some tips. Gabriel says yes. Love that. Okay. Lots of excitement coming in the chat. So many people are ready for the tips. Okay. If you're ready, next slide. First tip is read and understand the question properly before answering. I know, not really a tip, but you'd be surprised how much you can miss if you are applying under stress. So please read and understand the question properly before answering. Next, think about the level of funding that you are applying for, right? Level 1 and level 2 versus level 3 and level 4. Remember that the higher the funding level, the more detailed and breakdowns should be provided. All right, so don't bite off more than you can chew. Next, be clear and concise with your answers. I know I said this before, and it is a little bit cliche, but yes, short, sweet, and simple always does the trick. Next is how you can be concise with your answers is to use bullet points or numbers for easy reading, or break down your paragraphs into smaller paragraphs so that our reviewers are able to digest all that information much easier. All right, let's go on to some examples of a good answer to some of these questions. So, an example of a question is, why is your project needed? And a good sample answer is, in Maracaibo, Venezuela, access to clean drinking water is a challenge. And you see how the answer is written in number form, right? So number 2, it explains more about the difficulty, right? So the answer here is traditional water filters are expensive and difficult to maintain, limiting access to safe water. Our project will teach families to build biosand filters using affordable, locally available materials. By equipping them with this skill, we can help improve water quality, reduce waterborne diseases, and promote long-term access to safe drinking water. Short, simple, and sweet, right? Or maybe you'd like another example. Another example can look like this. So if the question is, what positive changes will your project bring to the community or the people you are supporting? A sample answer can sound like 2 community workshops will ensure youth learn low-cost, sustainable water filtration system techniques. Doing so, families will save money by avoiding expensive water filters, ensuring long-term impact. 30 households will gain access to safe drinking water by building DIY biosand filters using local materials. This will reduce waterborne diseases within 6 months. So why are these good answers? These are good answers because, number 1, they explain the problem and how your project will help to address it. Number 2, they are clear, concise, and show an impact. It shows how your project will make things better for the people in the community. And this also makes it easy for the judges reviewing your application to understand the impact of your project, right? So keep these in mind when you are writing and submitting your application. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, sorry, 1 second. My mouse flew away and I have lost my script. Okay. So we also wanted to share with you some insights as to why applications were unsuccessful from our Cycle 1 application process. So some common reasons include not meeting the eligibility criteria. So either the applicant was not between the age of 14 to 30 years old or not from an eligible country, right? So make sure that you check the eligible country list before applying. Another common reason is that these projects are outside of the GYM's scope, which means that they are for-profit initiatives. So the GYM does not support for-profit initiatives with funding. Another common reason of why applications were unsuccessful is because the budgets provided exceeded funding limits or there were inconsistencies in the budget breakdown. Right? Next, please stay at the common reasons. Okay, so another common reason why an application is not successful is because it is missing required documents. And one very important document is proof of organization registration. If you are applying as a registered youth-led organization. Or Another reason why an application might not be successful is because the project timelines are not aligned to the open calls schedule. All right. In addition to the above, youth panelists evaluate applications on the extent to which the budget aligns with proposed activities. They also evaluate based on the creativity and innovation of the solutions and the overall potential impact in addressing the stated challenges. So, as you may already know, the selection process is competitive due to limited funding and a large number of applications received. So even small issues may cause your application to be rejected. All right. So once again, be sure to carefully review the FAQs and the application form, read the sample answers, double check your eligibility, and ensure all the documents are in place before hitting submit. So taking these steps will definitely help maximize your chances of success. Next, just a couple more things to keep in mind, all right? If you are under 18 years old, you will need an adult representative to help receive the funds. Plus, you also need a reference letter from a non-guardian adult who knows your work. And next, of course, diversity and inclusion are at the heart of what we do. So we prioritize projects by or for underrepresented groups. To do this, we encourage applications from all walks of life to share a bit about themselves. For example, we ask for your gender, if you have a disability, or if you identify with any of the underrepresented communities. Just want to let you know that all personal information you provide is kept confidential and is only used to ensure we're being inclusive and fair. If you're not comfortable sharing certain information, just select prefer not to say in the form, and that's okay. All right? Also, the application form is available in English, French, Spanish, and Arabic. If you have internet access issues or disabilities, we can provide an offline form or other accommodations. So if you need some help, please check out our frequently asked questions section for answers to common questions and take a look at sample answers for guidance on high quality application responses. Next slide, please. Yes, so our website is www.globalyouthmobilization.org. Can I see the rest of the points, please? Thank you very much. If you go to our open call page, you will be able to access the frequently asked questions and sample answers for guidance. All right. I think that maybe some of you want more tips. And I think that this is the time to give it to you. So if you want a strong application, start writing this down. All right. First tip for a strong application is start gathering information for your project early, aka now. Okay? Gather all the necessary information now because the window for application is not long. So the form and all information is also savable, so you can resume your application whenever you need to. But of course, Sometimes tech problems happen at the worst moments. So do also keep an offline copy of your application just in case one of those techie issues pop up last minute. Take this time to invest in crafting a strong application. Another tip is make sure that you highlight the role of young people in your project. We want to see and we love to see how involved young people are in decision making and implementation. The greater the involvement, the better. Also, another tip is to highlight the SDGs you will be contributing towards. And remember that tackling environmental sustainability and reaching underrepresented young people are priority areas of the fund. So, if these are part of your project, make sure you highlight them. Next, focus on addressing immediate needs and creating positive change in your community. So, for example, if your project aims to improve education access, what does positive change look like? Positive change could be workshops or materials that help participants gain new skills or knowledge, or for a community cleanup project, for example. Positive change can be seen as a cleaner, safer environment and increased community engagement, which is then measured by the amount of waste collected and the number of community members who participate. So show us what positive changes you wish to see in your community to make your application stronger. Plan carefully and demonstrate your project's potential impact on the community. So last but not least, if you have any questions or need support, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Okay? If you can't find the answer to your question on our open call webpage or FAQs, you can contact us via email at eu-yef@globalyouthmobilization.org. Okay? We'll also be hosting more webinars for additional guidance. In fact, after this, you can also ask your questions, ask your burning questions, and us, the GYM team, we will be here to support you. If you follow us on social media, right? So check out the Global Youth Mobilization's social media channels on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter or X for updates or more information. You will be able to see tips, when our next capacity building workshops are, reminders on how long more you have left to apply, and so much more. All right. So really, please take out your phones and do that now. Okay. Because why? We are here to help you succeed. Last but not least, final reminder before I hand the mic back to Dio is that applications are now open and the deadline is 24th of March, 2359 Central European Time. Please mark this date in your calendars right now and don't leave your application to the last minute. All right? You only have another 2 weeks to apply, okay? So please don't apply last minute. We're looking forward to your applications. Thank you for joining this walkthrough and best of luck. Back to you, Dio.
Thank you very much, Yang. Thank you everyone for listening in as well. I know that has been quite quite a long presentation and detailed. So can I just check with all of us that you are still with us? Give us a thumbs up to confirm that you're still with us, and we can proceed from here. Looking forward to the thumbs ups. Okay, keep them coming. Great. Well, as we proceed, I would like to also just remind you that you can always paste your question in the question and answer section. A few questions are coming through and being answered. I believe now you have had some good information that can help you start preparing for your applications. Can I just check that the screen is working? Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. So at this point, we have something very exciting for all of you. And we have amongst us one of the youth panel members, Faith Matayen. She's going to talk to us. But before that, let me just give you something little about Faith. She's a dedicated gender equality advocate and a youth leader. She is the founder of Enkishon Masila Initiative, where she provides vocational skills, training, financial literacy, supporting women in her country. She's also working to support over 500 women on business skills and improving their livelihoods. And most importantly, she's a member of the youth panel at the EU Youth Empowerment Fund, the Global Youth Mobilization, where she will tell us a little bit more about what she does, and she can give us some insights. So let's all welcome Faith. Faith, please take a moment to introduce yourself and tell us why you joined the youth panel membership, or how you became a youth panelist, basically. Faith, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dio. So for the Youth Empowerment Fund, what I liked so much about it is the fact that it's a low barrier, youth-friendly initiative, something that anyone can actually access it. It does not have a lot of restrictions. And this is something that is very important for most of the youth. So about the introduction, I believe you've all heard, I'm just like all of you here, a youth or a young person who wants to make a change in their community. So you are in the right trajectory. Having joined this webinar, I believe that you're so much empowered to make that application stand out. So I'll give you some of the tips that will really help you to make the application stand out. So as a youth panelist, I've so far been able to assess and recommend over 120 applications that some have actually been funded. So I believe you've heard about there is a criteria that is supposed to be followed. So for you to actually get funded, you have to your initiative should align with the criteria that has been shared by the previous speakers. So my background, I come from the Maasai community, and a community whereby women are often disadvantaged and they face a number of systemic barriers to economic and social empowerment. And I've always been passionate about creating opportunities for the youth. So when this role came up, I felt like it is my space. It's a place that I can really empower the youth. I can really support youth-led initiatives by ensuring that they receive funding and the opportunity to scale. So I will answer some of the questions. Probably you have.
Yes, thank you. I'm just gonna take you through the questions slowly, so you don't have to worry. Okay.
Okay.
And I'll just ask you one of the very first questions, just to get it a little structured. What does the youth panel process for you look like? how does that process happen from your experience?
Okay, so it is structured to ensure that there is fairness, inclusivity, and impact-driven decision making. Because we have applicants from all over the world, so fairness and inclusivity is something that is at the core of the entire process. So also as a youth panel member, I am also responsible for reviewing funding applications from young change makers across various regions. And during the assessment, we also
Sounds like we have lost Faith, or is it just me?
so
I
Faith,
think
can you
he's
still hear me?
experiencing low bandwidth.
Yeah, I think Faith has a little connection issue.
can you hear me
Faith?
now?
Yes, we can hear you, and we are just asking you to give us just a brief stage-by-stage process of the youth panel review, maybe how many stages and what did you do in each of those stages? Then we'll go to the next question.
Okay. So like I said, that the process is structured to ensure that there is fairness, inclusivity, and impact-driven decision making. So after the application, a deadline, the applications are sorted into clusters, whereby under the clusters now we have the senior youth panelist and the youth panelist that will handle the various applications. So after the assessment, we'll also have after reviewing, we'll have the assessments whereby we do as teams. And finally, after the assessments, we now send the applications to the board.
Are you there?
Yes.
All right, I think you're talking about the youth panel meetings.
Yes.
Okay, just go on one moment, then we go to the third question.
Okay. So like I said, after the applications, we'll have the reviewing of the applications. And then after that, we have the youth meetings whereby we get to discuss as panelists about the various applications.
Okay, that is great. And so from, your experience, having reviewed some of these applications and looked through, and of course, gone to a point where you have worked with other youth panelists to recommend for funding some applications, what tips would you advise that would help someone put in a strong application?
Yeah, so the first one is clarity and impact. Clearly outline the problem that you wish to address and the specific impact that your project will have. Like, show how your initiative will solve a real problem in your community. Don't just write about an imaginary problem and an imaginary solution to it. So, and the other one is visibility and the sustainability. Will the project or the initiative continue even after the implementation phase? Demonstrate that your project is actually practical, it is achievable, and can create a lasting change. In that, even after the implementation, there will be a ripple effect of the initiative. And then the other one, have some innovation, like highlight what makes your approach unique from the others. Is it a new strategy? Is it collaboration or technology? Like showcase what your initiative really, why does it really stand out? And also community engagement. Your application should show a very active community involvement and participation to show that it will have a success. Because if your initiative is to be successful, it should have the community members at the core of its implementation. And then lastly, sorry?
Go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, so lastly is about the budget and the planning. You should really think through about your budget. It should be realistic. It should be detailed and directly tied to your project goals. Like avoid very generic budgets.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I think those are very helpful tips that can help our applicants prepare their applications well. And so, Faith, I'm just going to ask you the very last question. We have so many great people on this call that are either looking forward to applying or supporting other young people to apply. So what advice would you give to a young person who is considering to apply for this Youth Empowerment Fund?
Okay, so the first one is believe in your idea. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm very passionate about gender equality, and that is why I went for this role, because it's something that I believe in. So for you, any applicant that is in this call, please, if your project tackles an issue you care about, don't hesitate to apply, because the best initiatives always come from the lived experiences and passion. And then the other one, leverage local networks. Engage with the community stakeholders and youth networks to strengthen your initiatives. And lastly, please be open to learning. Whether or not you receive funding, the application process is valuable learning experience. Always stay engaged, refine your project, and explore other funding opportunities. And I believe that at some point your project will be funded, either now or some other time.
Well, great. Thank you very much, Faith, on behalf of the youth panelists for taking time to come and share with us insights and tips and also advice that can help young people prepare strong applications. We really appreciate your time. And basically, you're finishing by saying, let us always be open to learning and even take the application process as a chance for us to learn how to better present our projects. That's great. Believe in the project, but also adhere to the requirements as you have given. Thank you very much, Faith. If any one of you has any questions to Faith, feel free to put in the Q&A section and she will be here with us to answer any questions that you have. So at this point, we are moving to the next session, or rather next section of this session, and this is the question and answer section. So in case you have any questions, please write them in the question and answer section, and we are going to start responding to them moving forward. I see a few questions in Spanish. So I'm going to invite Lauren, my colleague, if you are able to take over from here, and I'm happy to be reading the questions for you.
Hi, Dio. Did you say to hand over to me? Sorry, I'm in the Spanish room, so I hear the Spanish. You want me to take over reading the questions, is that right?
Actually, I think we can take it to Yang and Lauren, any of us who is happy to be responding to some of the questions. Right now, I see 9 open questions. A number of them are in Spanish, but I think we're gonna start with in English. Or Lauren, if you have any translated words in Spanish, you want to go?
Yeah, there's a Spanish one that I have understood as Scout organization asking if they need to apply through their National Scout organization. The answer is no, it's not necessary that you have to apply for your national organization. You can apply as a smaller group, and it depends on how much funds you're applying for. So if you're applying for the higher tier of funds, you need to have a registration certificate available to be eligible for the higher funds. If you don't have those available, then you would need to apply for your national organization. So I hope that helps answer that one. Maybe we can take an English one next.
Okay, great. I'm gonna ask the English question and maybe Yang or one of us Are young people living with HIV categorized as marginalized groups under this call?
Yeah, I've also answered that question. I think it's come through again, but the answer is yes, they can be considered as an underrepresented group as part of this call.
Okay, great. An anonymous participant asks, what makes an application outstanding? Can you give us an example? Sounds like part of what Faith was saying. Faith, do you want to attempt to just answer these questions briefly? What would make an application outstanding for you as a youth analyst?
Okay, so for an application to stand out, it should be within the Youth Empowerment Fund focal areas. If you're following through the slides, you'll see the various areas that the Youth Empowerment Fund is really focusing on. And the other thing is also about the budgeting and also about the kind of initiative that you want to do. Will it have an impact in the community? Does it have a sustainability aspect of it? Or does it mean that the initiative will end once the implementation phase has ended? So those are the various things that you need to consider when coming up with an initiative.
Thank you. Anyone who'd like to add to that? Maybe Yang or Lauren, or can we move forward? Okay, great. So the next question, do you have any advice for anything we should avoid in our application? Maybe I'll try Faith again. Just one more, maybe just anything among the many things that you think if they avoid, they are more, having a stronger application.
Okay. So the youth should be at the center of the entire program because this is a youth empowerment fund and we want to see youth-led initiatives. So just ensure that the composition of the youth of your team are majorly youth.
Okay, that's great. And of course, there are age ranges between 14 and 30.
Okay.
Thank you, Faith. And I think in addition to that, it's also important that you stick within your budgets and look at what will be funded. And please don't mention in your application, don't allocate funds to areas that probably GYM would not be able to fund. For example, projects or activities that are seeking to generate profit and such like things. Can I check with Lauren if you want to add anything on what can be avoided, or we can move forward?
Sorry. Yeah, in terms of what could be avoided, I would suggest avoid long blocks of text in your answer and be concise in how you're explaining what your project will be doing. So bullet points are quite good in terms of the structure. And just being clear on what you plan to do and what the impact outcome is. That would be my suggestion.
Absolutely. And please avoid those big jargon words. Just write simple, clear, articulation or presentation of your project so that other people can understand. Great. We would go to, there are still other Spanish questions, but then there is a question in English from Vihan. Is it imperative that a school club needs to be registered as an official organization by the country? I'm not very sure in terms of qualification for this.
I think I can jump in on this one. So it all depends on the amount of funding you're applying for. So if you are applying for the 5,000 tier 4, then you do need a document to apply. So if you don't have a document, I would recommend that you apply for the tier 2, the 1,500 euros. Thanks for the question.
Thank you. So that would be, if you do not have an organization, then you can apply as a group, right? If the organization is not registered. Thank you. Someone by the name Mohai asks, is school building and renovation projects in rural areas eligible? School building. You like to try it out to check to give it a shot, Lauren? Building a school?
I might just get the information from the frequently asked questions just to be sure I can give you the exact answer. So I'll answer that one in the chat if that's okay.
Great, thank you. Is there a publicly available summary of projects selected in Cycle 1? So Dick, what we have shared was a summary of the projects selected. There were 410 projects selected out of 10,499 applications. And we do have a summary that was shared out in terms of not the specific projects, but the countries and other demographics or details that can be referred to. Because we also respect the privacy of their project people, so we do not necessarily share their details. But yes, there's a summary of the project distribution across countries that can be shared. There's a last question before we go to the Spanish question from Bruno. Bruno, it would be great if you paste the questions in the Q&A section, because in the chat we lose them. But you're asking if you are applying for Tier 3, are we supposed to submit any documents? And you're also asking for a budget template. So Lauren, do you want to attempt the two? First one, he is asking if there is budget template. He says there wasn't. And then the second one, what documents should be submitted for Tier 3?
I think there is on the website, on the open call application page, you can find some examples of the questions. I'll share the link in the chat so that you can have a look.
Okay. Great. I see the Spanish questions. There are 3 of them.
Maybe would it be possible for Laura or no, I don't know who's translating currently because I can't see you, but if you're able to share the English of the question, is that possible?
Can I paste them in the... I'm gonna paste in the interpreter's chats.
What?
And you can get the interpretation. As they prepare the translation and interpretation of the questions in Spanish, there is one last question that I see in our Q&A section. The question is asking, I want to understand what a detailed budget entails. I would simply say that a detailed budget is a breakdown of what you are spending your money on. Just give a budget and say, hey, we will need 1,000 euros. Please break down and explain the details of how this is being spent. If you're buying items or paying for services, it will be important that you break that down. I see 2 hands being raised, but before I bring them in, do we have any success with the interpretation of the 3 questions from Spanish to English?
In our
Maybe,
applications,
if
we
the
receive
interpretation team, I've put the question in the chat. Would it be possible to share the translation of that question in English so we're able to answer it?
Right, as that comes, I see 2 hands up, Musa and Parvis. I imagine you wanted to ask something, so can we start with Musa? You can give me a few moments to please ask. If you need to ask live, just unmute your mic.
Yes, thanks to the GYM team and their partners for this great opportunity they have given to young people to actually showcase their impact. First of all, I did apply for the first circle, and during the reviewing process, I got an email which I got selected, and after some months or weeks, I received again another email which stated that the first email that I received, which was approved, it is not totally correct. So they said they are going to review. It was a system on their own side, it's a technical system. So they're actually reviewing now the application. So after the final review, I received an email of rejection. So after some months, and they sent a reason for the rejection, which I said, wow, it's got me confused. And apart from that, I've already applied again for this second circle, which I've already submitted my application, but I found out that the actual amount that I applied for, which is 5,000, which is a tier 4 to 5, after actually analyzing my budget, and I reached down to the budget section, I actually write down the total budget, which is the 5,000. And when I submitted my form, when I got the feedback, because they give you feedback, so when I review it, I saw the total to be 10,000, the funding total to be 10,000. So I don't know why that happens, because after I've already explained and analyzed my budget towards the activities, and I written down as total budget is 5,000, and when they reply to me, I think they just jungle up everything, the analysis that I did, which is 5,000, then I write down the total, which is 5,000. So they just took everything as one, and when I got the review, it's stated here at 10,000. So I don't know how they could actually go about to rectify that one, because that's my own concern here. So that's it.
Maybe I can take that one, Dio. I think you're on mute.
Yes.
What I'd encourage you to do is, so a lot of the applications that came in, that's where you would have received the feedback back. The budget section, when there's a different figure entered in, it creates it then shows on our side that it's more, and then applies, your application would then be above the amount. At this stage, we already have been through the process of the applications for the cycle 1. So my suggestion would be to encourage you to resubmit your application, which I think you said you've already done. But if it would help, if you're able to share with us by the email, eu-yef@globalyouthmobilisation.org, any specific questions that you've got, and we can look at your case in particular. I don't have the information right now or your application on screen, so that's why I'm encouraging you to email us directly on that one, so we can look at and give you a bit more guidance, but so that it can be considered as part of this cycle 2 call. Hope that helps and gives a bit more clarity to you. I'll add the email address in the chat as well, so then you have it. But thanks for your question.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Lauren.
thank you.
So we are just sending the email address to the chat now. Please just share the two situations on email, and if you have any attachments or screenshots, that would really be helpful. Just to also manage and see how we can support that specific case. Thank you. Let's move to Pavis. Your hand is up. We would like to give you a moment to also talk to us.
Okay, thank you for giving me a chance. I just want to ask, suppose we are a different organization and we want to work in a different,
Pavis,
like politics.
sorry, we cannot hear you clearly. Are you able to be a little more clear, please? Go ahead.
Yes, am I audible now?
Yeah, much better.
Okay, thank you. Suppose we are an youth-led organization working in Bangladesh, and we want to work in two different SDGs like climate action and education, and also we want to work in two different cities. Is it possible in a budget?
Yeah, I can comment on that one. So working in different cities is possible. I guess it's just making sure that you're clear on how your budget will be used and if there's any differences on where the budget will be going for that. The other thing I would say is that it's key to make sure that it's still the same organization that's implementing. So for example, so that when we send the funds, we're sending it to one organization and not in two separate cities for different organizations, just for example. So yeah, just giving as much information as you can in your application to show which activities you'll be doing in which location, or if you're doing the same activities in both locations, that's also okay. The key, just for other people listening, is when we receive applications, it's really tricky if we have applications from a project that are working in different countries because of the eligibility criteria and sending funds. But in your case, you're in the same country, just different cities, which we would be able to receive your application and have a look at that in more detail. But I hope that helps, and thanks for the question.
I think we will take, okay, I see two more hands raised, so we can go with those ones. Please be very specific to your question. Let's start with William. William, what would you like to ask? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, and appreciate what Global Youth Mobilization Fund is doing. I'm Ache William from Cameroon. I'm founding president of SEDA. So my question is about the specificities of your criteria for youth-led registered organizations. Particularly, you talk about the registration documents, certificate, and ID. Yeah, considering that countries have different ways or different perspectives regarding registration documents for their organizations or youth-led. So what are your specific criteria selecting youth-led registered organizations with specific IDs? What are you looking at? My second question is about the project sustainability plan. Yeah, what are you really looking at when you mention the fact that you are not looking at mostly for profit projects, like project that has to do with funding for profit items or funding for profit yeah, so but that is my worry. What do you mean when you want to talk about sustainability? How will the project continue in the near future if you are not intended to make the project run on a for-profit base or probably run by support from other organizations? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Lauren, you're happy to?
Yeah, I can start with that one. So on the ID and registration documents, obviously we do understand that it's different depending on each country. So where in your country, I don't know exactly at the moment the context there and what registration documents that are available, but usually we would default to that country's usual processes, and usually there is a form of paperwork that is recognized at the country level. So we would be expecting you to be submitting something that fulfills that criteria. If there's any specific questions or if you're uncertain, then you can feel free to email us at the email address I put in the chat earlier. And then if you don't have any documentation, the other thing that I'd recommend is you can always apply for a lower tier. So if you're unsure or if you don't have the right paperwork, or you're not, if you're a new organization that's still starting up, I'd encourage you to apply for that lower tier, because we're only able to transfer the funds to organizations that have that documentation, so that we can make sure that it has, on our system, we're able to recognise it at that level to receive that amount of funds. In terms of, sorry, I'm probably speaking a bit fast for the translator, so I'll pause a moment. Regarding the sustainability plan, I guess it really depends on the type of project. So I'll just, some things that come to mind, for example, would be if you're running a project that could be, for example, training young people on how to make menstrual hygiene pads, then it could be that you're training those young people as trainers that then will go out and do further work within their communities to train other young people beyond the lifespan of the project. Or if you, I'm using the same example, if you needed to create sustainability for the materials, maybe as part of the project, you would have a partnership outreach section that would look for partners that could help fund or supply you with the materials required. Another idea would also be, while you're running your project, whether you could look at developing other project proposals and looking for other funding streams. So it's not necessarily that we expect you to have an exact plan of how you will run it, but even within your project's lifespan, the fact that you're thinking about how to continue an implementation beyond the lifespan of the project. Again, it really depends on the type of project as to what you will be doing, but those are just a few of my ideas that could be implemented. I don't know, Dia, if you've got another example of sustainability that you'd like to add.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Lauren. And in addition to that, I would just say, William and Tim, you are allowed to seek other partnerships to help you towards your sustainability of this project. Just because you are applying for the GYM, for the Youth Empowerment Fund, does not limit you to seek other opportunities to support this specific project and other partnerships. So please feel free to also think about in your application who else you can work with, and feel free to strengthen your application by talking about partnerships. William, it is okay also that you can put in an ongoing project, but just make sure that you are able to demonstrate really how this funding will help that project bring the change you desire to see in your community. Lastly, Flora, I see your hand up. You could be our last speaker for today. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I have a community-based organization that deals with the waste management, awareness creation, and campaigns. And so over time, we have been thinking of how to increase these particular campaigns by proposing to do waste recycling, especially in glass from the slum area where I come from. And to achieve this at some point for a startup, in my view, I thought that we will start by giving the youths some small incentives for them to be able to pick up the glass and then bring it to a recycling facility. And then after some time, the waste recyclers are able to bring them on their own and stop the incentives part. So is it eligible that in our sustainability plan, we talk about giving the youths for a start incentives, or that will be profit-oriented?
So I think that's a tricky one. I guess it depends on what you mean by incentives. So for example, if the incentive could be something like they can access training or different workshops or something like that, so it helps build their skills, I think that would be a really good strong example of an incentive that also helps build their capacity, and that would strengthen your application. My thought on, if you meant like a monetary incentive, I don't think that would be as strong in terms of, that I think there's other incentives that you could explore to help increase the impact of what they can then do, like with information and knowledge, they can then still gain something from the program. I think it's a tricky one but that would be my impression. I'm not sure, Faith, if you had any examples or had any discussions as a youth panelist actually on that particular type of example that you want to add.
Faith, you can unmute.
Okay, so we'll reiterate on what Lauren has said, that if you are, for example, to include the incentives, they should not go the monetary way, because if they are monetary, it means that the benefit will not go directly to the community. So find another way of, giving them incentives, but it should not be monetary. You can even have something like certificates at the end of the exercise. That can really work. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you to Faith and Lauren. I think what we are basically being told is if you see your project getting towards a direction of profit making or benefiting individuals financially, then that is lowering your chances of getting the funding, because your project should really focus more on how it is creating change in the community and basically how you want to build that kind of change sustainably. So if the young people will only be maybe doing the work, Flora, as you say, and only doing that, and the incentive is to get money, remember the project money would come to an end. How do you sustain that? So that's why we want to think about great avenues on how you can utilize this funding to set the project rolling within the project period and funding, but also beyond, so that when funding comes to an end, you don't say now people are no longer motivated because they do not have the payment to do the great work. But we'd be very excited to read your project among the other projects coming, and I think it can be discussed in details at that point. Last but not least, Mohai, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Happy to hear your voice and your question. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, you get it correct at Mohai. My question is about the project that I want to do. We want to renovate the school. In our country, most primary schools are free education. That says they don't pay school fees. So I asked the question in the Q&A, but it says it's a profit-oriented. I want to know, how is it a profit-oriented project if there are no school fees being paid? It's in the rural areas, and the schools, it's very one school that is supporting about more than 10 communities. The children of 10 villages are going to that school, but the classrooms are not in good shape, especially when it comes to winter. It's very cold, but there are no roofs, no windows or doors. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I put the frequently asked questions information there, which did include the specific things that were not eligible. So the piece there I wanted to share is regarding is it property or office space? I guess a project that's primarily only investing in the building space and only the building space might not make as strong of an application as something that is also doing different things alongside. But where as you just clearly outlined, there is a clear community benefit and a social purpose to the work that you're doing. So it's making sure that that comes clearly through in your application. I'd also share or open the floor for Faith as well, if you wanted to share something on that example as well as a youth panelist.
Yes. So, Mohai, for example, that is just one particular school, and maybe you do the construction and all that, but I get the number of schools in that region. So it means that you'll not have really achieved that much of a social impact as compared to engaging stakeholders, education, like the education stakeholders in that particular community. They'll be able to better address that situation. So you can engage them through the initiative that you'll be running, and that is not building the schools. So you can engage those other stakeholders to deal with that or to reconstruct the classrooms. You can also engage the community. Like from where I come from, the community can even have a fundraiser and address such a challenge. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lauren and Faith. I hope this is helpful. I mean, we may not have or go into the specific details of your project right now, but please feel free to use the information you've gathered, go back to the Q&A section, go back to the requirements, review again what we fund and what we may not fund, and then please put in that application. And Faith and the whole team of over 170 youth panelists will have a chance to look through these projects, and of course they will recommend them as appropriately as it would be. At this point, I think I would like for us to just want to check if there's any last, do I call it burning question, but a few questions in Spanish, so we can respond to those ones and then jump to the last bit of this session. Even as we respond, I want to share a link to the evaluation of this meeting in the chat. Please take a moment, just open the link and please take a moment to give an evaluation or feedback of how this meeting has been for you. Lauren, I'm checking with you if we are able to respond to some questions in Spanish. Got any translations? And see. Okay. Trying to see if there's any. I see this one, Laura. Thank you. It says, in terms of budget, rentals, or technology are it covered? Can we include the payment for trainers in educative sessions? Can we include transport and snacks for the break? So I'm imagining this looks like a workshop or a training session for some. I think yes, if those costs are towards empowering the community. You might have a trainer that will need to be paid for a given session. Maybe there's transport involved and a few snacks towards the realization of the goal of your project. Based on the activities you're covering, then sure, please, you can include that as you break down your budget. I can't see another translation.
I think I just had a look at the translation of one of them, and they were asking it was someone that applied in cycle 1, and they were asking they received some feedback, and they were asking what tips do we recommend to improve their application for cycle 2. I think that being here is one of those tips that we would share. The second tip would be to have a really thorough look at the frequently asked questions page and all of the sample answers as well. So really that page that we've shared gives a lot of information on examples of answers, just like we've shared today. So that would be a recommendation there. Faith, is there any other recommendation you want to share on specific?
Okay, yes. So just go through your application one last time. You'll be able to see the gaps. You align it to the criteria that has been shared. You'll be able to see the gaps. You'll be able to see where you missed out, and you'll be able to put in a very strong application that last time. All the best.
Thank you, Faith and Lauren. I think I wouldn't add much. The criteria defines, but if you have any questions that are not clear, please take a moment to also go through the frequently asked questions on the website and make sure that your questions are being clearly reflected there. During the window of application between now and 24th, you are still allowed to actually send in an email inquiry if you would like, if there's something really critical that you can't find on either of these documents. We hope that can help. Okay, I see a hand up and I'm just looking at time. We are already 15 minutes beyond our time. So Mohammed, I hope I pronounce your name right. Please briefly and to the point, ask your question and then we'll move forward. As Mohammed asks the question, please check in the chat and click on the link I have shared and give us some feedback and evaluation on how this session was. Go ahead, Sani. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. I am Mohammed Sani Disu. Is it possible for a new entrant to go in for the second phase?
Mohammed, just elaborate what you mean by a new entrant and
what I'm saying is that if it is your first time, can you go in for the second, can you go to start with the second tranche?
I think, Lauren, I understand. He asks if it is the first time you're applying, can you go to the second or subsequent tiers?
The tiers, yeah. So as a first-time applicant, it's all dependent on the type of applicant you are. So the lower tiers are for individuals and informal groups, and the higher tiers are funding for registered youth-led organizations. So if you're a registered youth-led organization, you can apply for tier 4. So you can find again more information. We'll share it again in the chat, just so you can have a detailed look at the different tiers and which one you would be eligible to apply for. But thank you for your question. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Lauren. Can a lead applicant, Harens, I hope I pronounce your name well, asking, can a lead applicant apply for a project from an organization and another applicant from the same organization with a different project? How, that's the question, I think it's related. Then there's a second part where they ask, how will the fund be given to informal organizations? So I think here the clarity has to be, are these applying as individuals or as one organization putting in 2 separate projects? Your insights, Lauren, as well?
Yeah, so I think technically, if they are different young people, part of the same organization with different projects, you can apply. But if we see, for example, if we receive a lot of applications, it would be unlikely that we would fund both projects from the same organization. So a consideration could be, would it be better to look at the different projects, teams or project ideas that you have and seeing if it's better to do one strong application as the organization. So it's more of we have a large volume of applications coming in. So it's making sure that we're able to fund across lots of different locations, organizations as well. So it'd be more unlikely that both would get funded, but if they're different ideas, technically you could apply for the lower tiers as informal groups attached to the same organization.
Okay, great. I think there's a last question that was asking, how do you fund informal groups? And this seems to be a question around bank accounts because it's not a formalized group.
Yeah, so for informal groups, you would need a named individual. It depends on if you're under 18, you might need a parent or guardian that would be able to receive the funds on your behalf. The way that you receive the funds depends on which country you're in and the different banking systems there. So we would look at that. If you were to receive, to get through and be successful in your application, we would then look at the best method of transferring the funds to you, but you would need to be able to still provide the ID and the relevant documentation so that we can validate that you are able to receive the funds.
Thank you very much, William. The verification, so William is asking whether they can submit registration documents for verification before applying. Lauren, go ahead. I think you have to say something.
Yeah, so we receive a lot of applications and we want to make sure that we are complying with the data protection regulations. So we wouldn't usually want to be receiving lots of information because we would not want to be storing all that information at the applicant level. It's usually just for the successful awardees that we would need that. However, if you have a question on a particular type of documentation, I'd recommend that you can email us and just give us an information on the type of document that you're wanting validating and an example of one, but not your own documentation, just so we can maintain the data privacy as well.
Absolutely. So in simple terms, thank you, Lauren. We will only ask for the specific documentations after we have reviewed and shortlisted projects, and only from the projects that we are now seeking to fund for. So at this point, William and other young people here, I would suggest focus on strengthening your application. If you have the registrations already, then apply on the tier or tier that meets the registration. If it is a group that is informal or an individual, make a strong application focused on that level of your application. Then prepare your documents in case they will be required. Be ready to submit, but don't start by submitting your documents. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Can I just check that we have already filled the form for review? Please just give me a thumbs up if you had a chance to open the link in the chat and fill the evaluation form. Great, William, thank you. I see, oh, great, Rahul as well. Yeah, thank you. Please take a moment to fill. Let me paste that link once more. Here is the evaluation form. If you want to use, if you simply want to scan using a QR code, it is also displayed on the screen. Please take a moment to fill, and then we're going to do a very beautiful group photo. Please don't leave before you do a group photo in the next 3 minutes or 2 minutes, and then we call it a day. Yes, the recording of this webinar would be shared on our social media. Please give us some time to prepare and make sure it's ready for sharing, especially on YouTube. And please, yes, let's go to that slide, please. The slide with the key dates as a reminder. Thank you very much. So just to keep in mind as we come to the end of this session, when you go to the Global Youth Mobilization website, you will find all the information and details that you need, including links to frequently asked questions. But what is also important is you'll also get links to the ongoing capacity building sessions. And I want to post that link as well on the chat, because we still have other ongoing capacity building workshops that are coming up later this week and next week to help you prepare for your application. So please look at the link that has just been posted that has capacity building workshops. Secondly, applications close on the 24th of March. So we have just about 16 days. Please take time to prepare and submit early so you don't have the last rush. You never know. Sometimes systems may be not stable at the very last minute and everyone is trying to submit. So take time and prepare early. We will be hosting other webinars. I've shared the link of the workshops. Please go and subscribe to them. And remember to follow Global Youth Mobilization on the social media updates. And as we said, if you have any questions, please email the email address that is displayed. At this point, I would request us to please open our cameras, and I would request, Lauren, is that you or May, to please prepare us to take a very nice photo. Please switch your cameras on if you can.
If Yang is still online, maybe she might be able to, because May and I are sharing screen. Is that possible?
Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah.
I can do it.
Great. So we can stop sharing the screens now.
Yes.
And Yang, take over from here, please.
1 second. All right. Just gonna take a photo in 5, 4, 3, 2, one, smile.
Are we still
All
spotlighting?
right.
Okay, let me just check because I still have a spotlight on my end.
Nope. You're good. I got everybody. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Did you take both slides? We have two screens.
Oh, did you want me to take the other one as well? Okay, sorry. One more for the other
The
slide.
second screen.
Okay, one more time. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, smile. Thank you very much, beautiful everybody.
Wow, it's so good and great to see the whole globe represented here and the great smiles. We really hope that soon enough, in the next few months, those smiles will be receiving some funding. Please put in your applications, support your young people to put in the applications. And thank you very much for making time to be with us and listen and ask questions. I want to appreciate the team from GYM. I want to appreciate, most importantly, our youth panelist, Faith, on behalf of the 170 plus other youth panelists for taking your time to be here. And most importantly, to our interpreters for ensuring that all languages and all speakers are supported. And Raul, thank you for your hands. I can see them. So at this point, we should be saying goodbye. I want to give a chance to Laureen and anyone in the team to say a goodbye. Well, thank you very much. Bye-bye. Thank you very much. Looking
Thanks,
forward to
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you all.
Bye
Bye.
all. Bye.
the team. You're staying on for a minute. Please stay on. Can stop recording this.